Grip of the infinite. Tempo tears. Grip of the infinite. Tight tempers. Temporal tears. Struggle.
Yo, hello guys, it's Lucy. It's the end of the first week, and I have already finished most of the endgame content and Ubers. So I think it's time to make a video going over my JustCon main character update for 3.29. Right now, my character has already swapped to the elemental version, with the main piece being Warforged, along with a lot of Ghastly Eye jewel, a full Adorn jewel setup. With this setup, we have enough DPS to rush Ubers and AFK Blighted Map with very few towers. On the defense side, it's also doing well. We have a total of 5k life bar with plus ES, and instant leech from the Fullbone Soul Stealer build, which provide a very good recovery rate. This allows us to also FK Ultimatum and Simulacrum farming. With more investment into this character, there is still some room to upgrade the DPS and tankiness. I am planning to push my life bar to 6k after leveling up, and open up a third big cluster to min-max the DPS. So today I will go over this whole character update. Basically, the way to build this character isn't much different from the 3.28 version. I only made a few minor changes, but because of that, I will mainly focus on introducing what's the differences between 3.29 and 3.28. Alright, let's begin. Well, the main changes in 3.29 are the AG equipments. The bad news, GGG nerfed Master Stage Demon, so it's no longer usable. We need a bit more investment for AG survivability. There's also good news that GGG added lots of the new corrupted implicit, so this gives us much better implicit option for unique items, and we use a lot of unique items, right? Making up the loss of Stage Demon. Overall, I will say AG survivability is still good and able to clear all content. So for the weapon, we are still using Warforged. Worth mentioning that the offlane crafting this league is super powerful. We can use it to roll Tempering Orb, which saves tons of land. I only use 2 Tempering Orb to hit the physical modifier magnitude, save a lot of currency. If we want to continue min-max, we can keep gambling with Volatile Var Orb. But honestly, our DPS is already enough for most of endgame content, so I just use what I get. For the glove, we are using Graphite with a curse on hit implicit. Doesn't have to be frostbite. Any curse on hit works. Our goal is just to trigger that Minion offense mastery for the 8% elemental penetration against cursed enemy. So again, doesn't have to be frostbite. I just use what I get. Any curse is fine. And the body armor, use Goku's pelt for the 10% life regeneration per second. This is our AG's main life regen source. And later on, we can upgrade to Doppelganger for less physical and chaos damage taken to make it more tanky. But since current endgame Farming Strat is not too hard, sticking with Goku's pelt plus a good implicit is also a solid option. So up to you. For the helmet, I use the Leer cast with a damage life leech implicit, since most of the time we are using the Fullbone Soul Stealer build instead of Darkest Enthroned. So we need a new life leech source for the AG. And I found that getting life leech from a helmet implicit works really well. It gives some recovery to our AG. And about the boot, I use the Kurutoha Certainty to keep AG unaffected by the damage alignments, which is pretty important actually. Also, AG's elemental resistance are only around 70% if you only use the Bone Ring. So find some additional elemental resist on the body armor or boot implicit is also a great way to boost the AG's EHP. My AG is socket in the character helmet, so use a +2 minion gen implicit. link with a level 3 in power, so my AG can reach level 25. I think that's enough for the most endgame content farming like the Simulacron and bossing. If you are playing to run super repeat content, there's also a nice upgrade option that this league provides the infront unique mechanic, so we can get something like the +2 Saki Jet Implicit like this. This will apply on both AG and Empower, so it literally gives a +4 to our AG. So linked with a level 4 Empower, we can literally get a level 28 AG, making it super tanky. This comes from transforming a Hunter Horn onto an Asian School. That +2 Saki Jet Implicit was super expensive in 328. So I'm really glad that we have another way to get it in 329. It's a really good endgame chasing item. Okay, so moving on to the Transfer Command Body Armor. The new Infront unique mechanic gives us some really interesting implicit option this league. I'm currently using the 25% of physical damage from hit taken as lightning damage. It really helped to fix this build's weakness, which is the lower maximum 5 hit taken. This implicit lowers the threshold for AFK Ultimatum by a lot. However, this specific implicit is not strictly necessary. There are other great corrupted implicit like the +1% maximum resistance or reduce extra damage from critical strike. Both are really good. It's up to you. Okay, about the rest of our gear is basically the same as 398. So like Full-Bone Surveilling Sleep and Aegis Aurora to keep the block chance. We can also use a Sparling, both are great. And we'll need a Sword for 1 extra link and some resistance. And the Full-Bone Sorcerer for the Leech is instant and Immortal Ambition. This build is so good that it's almost a mandatory item for Ultimatum and Simulacron farming. Now, if you watched my previous build guide, probably know that I usually have 2 different setups. One tanky setup for mapping Ultimatum and Simulacron, and one glass cannon setup for Blighted Map AFK and boss rush. What we have right now is the tanky setup to cap the block chance, and also with the instant life leech. To converting into the glass cannon version is super simple. Just drop the shield to another weapon and swap the build to the Dragon's Infront. Yeah, it's done. So basically, we double our DPS by just change our build and shield. Now let's talk about the passive tree. It's pretty much the same as 328, using the Necromancer and the Katarina Bloodline for the prolonged servitude. It is very important for the empty weapon survivability. And the core idea of the passive tree is to cap our attack and spell block chance here and here. And also, we're using the Adorn Jewel setup and also take a lot of the magic corrupted Gatsby Eye. Our DPS is directly tied to the number of the Gatsby Eye jewels we stake. So the more jewel you have, the higher DPS you can get. A lot of people ask me how to craft these Gatsby Eye jewels. Well, 328 offline crafting is super powerful for this, and it lowered the crafting cost significantly. Here's how we do it. We roll the alternation orb on a level 83 base until we hit the T1 physical damage. I usually do this during FK Blighted Map farming, since we are just standing here anyway. Then we use the offline crafting to augment Minion attack speed. This step has only about 10% success rate. If we get something else, then we just use an Orb of Annulment to remove it and try it again. Once we hit the attack speed, we can consider use the Beastcraft to lock the magic item, which guarantee it won't break when we use the Var Orb. But currently, the Black Morrigan is pretty expensive, so I prefer to just use a Var Orb without the lock. Crafting these jewels is the hardest part of this build, and we need 6 of them. Moving on to the cluster, I currently open 2 large clusters for Renew and Vicious Bite, and 1 Minion Life cluster for Blessed Rebirth and Life from Death. This life cluster is super important for Minion survival, so don't forget it. We also use the Rain Nightmare Jewel paired with the Virus Tattoo combo, which gives us a lot of block chance. Finally, I use an Elegant Hubris with Conspiro naming to get Supreme Ostentation. It can ignore the attribute requirement, which is huge for our build because we can use Tattoo to get a massive amount of the resistance. And also use the Ring Graft to get the global defense and extra reservation efficiency. So yeah, that's basically the entire setup here. Once we level up a little bit more, we will open up a third large cluster here for more jewel socket, which should be around level 99. Alright, that's pretty much about it. Our character is currently in a state where it can easily clear all content. So instead of continuing to min-max it, I will probably be testing out different farming strategy and saving up currency to figure out what build to play next. So feel free to leave your suggestion in the comment. That's all the content for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you next time.